My name is Damon Fairchild. I am a graduate student at Boise State University in the Master of Educational Technology program. Thank you for taking a few minutes to preview my portfolio today. Before I get started, I want to give you just a brief overview of some of the things that I'll be discussing over the next few minutes. First, I'll talk a little bit about myself if you don't mind. Second, I'm going to talk about what I call the small things that really have made a difference that I've learned while being a student at Boise State University. The next thing I want to talk about are the big ideas, some of the projects that really had a profound impact on me and why they had that impact on me. And then finally, I want to talk about what the heck does this all mean? Why did I go through 2 years of hard work just like everyone else? And what's my end game? What is it that I hope to make out of this? Just to start a little bit again about me, I live here in Hawaii on the island of Oahu with my beautiful wife and 3 daughters. We love going to the beach, surfing, anything we can do out in the warm sun. Hawaii is definitely a great fit for us. Here in Hawaii, I work for Expedia. In fact, I work for the division that no one's heard of. You've probably all heard of Expedia, but Local Expert is the division that I work for. Expedia.com gets you on an airplane and puts you in a hotel. But once you get here, my division is the one that really helps you have fun. We have concierges in over 60 hotels here in Hawaii who provide firsthand expert information on what are the best tours and activities to do while you're visiting and how to make the most of your time and really have the vacation of a lifetime. If we're getting deep down into my core, I have to admit I'm a Miami Dolphins fan. In fact, so much I'm using the new logo that you probably may not even recognize yet. Sad that the NCAA tournament is over and that my Duke Blue Devils didn't win, but life goes on, and we've got baseball season getting ready to get started here, or is in the midst already, and I'll be happy to follow my Los Angeles Dodgers through the season. Now, prior to working for Expedia, I was actually a professional photographer for about 10 years, focusing specifically, as you can see here, on family portraits and senior portraits. Now, of course, we did traditional family portraits, we did traditional senior portraits. This particular senior here just sort of is a highlight of how we really tried to focus on who they were as individuals. This young lady was getting ready to go play college volleyball, so we made sure that in addition to getting the shots that her grandma wanted to see, we got the things that her friends at school would really like too, and highlighted her abilities as an athlete, just as we would with someone who played an instrument or had another skill that really defined who they were during their high school years. Now, after moving to Hawaii and working for Expedia, I don't necessarily have the same amount of time that I used to photograph families and seniors. I still do a little bit, but I do have a little bit more opportunity to photograph beautiful landscapes. In fact, this was photographed on Kauai a little bit over a year ago. Nice little view of Waimea Canyon, which was dubbed by Mark Twain as the Grand Canyon of the Pacific. Got up in a helicopter and got some beautiful views of the island that way. Finally, in addition to being a professional photographer, about 5 years ago I joined the Professional Photographers of America. Professional Photographers of America provides them wonderful opportunities, not only from a print competition standpoint, but from an education standpoint. And every year for many years, even prior to becoming an official member, I have attended seminars and information sessions and spent time with some of the famous photographers in the world who have really are always willing to openly share the information that they have and how they became what they became. Education has always been an important thing to me. In fact, I have completed all of my education merits necessary from the Professional Photographers of America to be just about done with my master's degree in photography. The only thing that I'm lacking are print merits. In order to gain your master's degree, you have to have 13 national award-winning prints, and of the 13 necessary, I have 9. So I'm getting close, probably going to get that done in the next couple of years, and I'm looking forward to it, and I'll have a master's degree from the Professional Photographers of America, be considered a master photographer, and I will also have a master's degree from Boise State University. Now, I mentioned earlier that I wanted to talk about all the small things, and now I'm not talking about the Blink 182 song from back when I was in high school. What I'm really talking about are the tiny little pieces of the puzzle that really have helped to make this experience most valuable. The first things I'm going to start with I call the organizers. Zotero is definitely an organizer, used only in Firefox, but is a great way to keep all of your internet files organized, to do citations, have everything you need anywhere you need it at any time. I used Zotero whether I was here on my home computer in Hawaii, back in Washington, where I often go, or even in Colorado or other places on the West Coast, Utah. Every time I was on a trip and I was working on something over the last couple of years, I was able to gather information by syncing up with Zotero and never get off track. Use Scribd to store some valuable documents online and make it a little bit easier for people to preview them online. And we use Digo for a class project to share some of that information. The next things I would call the socializers: Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Skype, WordPress, Blogger, and Adobe Connect. All of these things were used to do some microblogging, or even Adobe Connect. I had a project where the final project was to do a synchronous lesson with people all over the world, and my partner and I, who just happened to live here in Hawaii as well, did a Hawaiian language lesson for our class, and they were all able to learn a few phrases in Hawaiian using Adobe Connect. So the socializers definitely will be of value to me going forward, especially in the age that we live in with mobile and everything that learners are doing to keep educational opportunities in their pocket or in their hand. The next category I call the visualizers. Now, I just sort of made these names up myself, but you've got Prezi, SlideShare, Screencast, and last but not least, Camtasia, which I'm using right now to create this presentation. So the visualizers have really helped me and will continue to help me to share information in a variety of different ways as I go forward. Now, I want to spend a couple of minutes and talk about the big ideas. What were some projects that I worked on that really had a profound impact on me? I'm going to talk first about my web quest from EdTech 502, the Internet for Educators. Then I'm going to talk about my evaluation project from EdTech 505, and finally my instructional design project from EdTech 503. Just going to exit out of this really quick here and get right into Google Chrome here. And I want to show you just a quick shot of my web quest. Now, this was the reason that this project had an impact on me, was because this was the first time that I was really able to make the connection between the love and the passion I have for photography and educational technology. Using Dreamweaver, of course, I built this site in an attempt to help educate future photographers. Now, the task was for them to consider, as they began their photography business, what file type they would use. Storage is definitely a key concern. It can be expensive depending on how much photography you do and how many you need to store. I worked for a company where we would photograph tens of thousands of students every year, and little leagues and proms, and really had to concern ourselves with how we were going to store our files, right? Now, the two main types are JPEG and RAW. Now, if I was shooting a canyon like the picture we showed before, I would definitely, lean towards using a RAW file. A RAW file definitely contains more information. The color spectrum is wider. The file size is much larger, and it allows you much more flexibility and margin for error. A JPEG is just the opposite of that. It's a small file size. It doesn't allow you much more margin for error, and the color spectrum is smaller. Now, that might be just fine. Like I said, if we're dealing with elementary school kids, if we're dealing with a portrait that may be printed large and going on a wall, we may need to make another decision. So this particular activity helped walk a learning photographer, a new photographer who's starting their business, helped them walk through the process of deciding which of those file types would be most appropriate in each situation. The other thing that it did to me is it really gave me an educational connection, which I didn't previously have, having not worked in education, and in forcing me to design a rubric. Now, one of the things I really learned to love at Boise State was a good rubric that gave me the exact information that I needed to know, so I understood exactly what the professor was expecting of me. Being able to create my first rubric here for this project really helped me to see how simple and easy it can be, and how important it is for an instructor to set proper expectations. The next project I want to take a couple of minutes and talk about is my evaluation final report for EdTech 505. I decided in this case to do a report on Expedia Local Expert. Now, about a year or so ago, we started a new training that really focused on service with our new hires, and we really felt that, and still continue to feel that, as we provide a greater level of guest service, our sales will continue to increase, and that we'll be able to generate the revenue that we expect as we treat guests with a higher level of respect and concern. Now, this is something that could be extremely difficult to measure. How do you measure service? How do you measure whether or not guests are having a positive experience, and if that positive experience was really why they ended up spending more money? So in doing this project, I learned if we're going to try and answer a difficult question, one of the important factors is coming up with or determining an appropriate evaluation method. I decided to use a decision-making model and the goal-based method hybrid together in order to reach our objectives. We studied a few things. We studied client counts. We studied mahalos, which is actually a word for thank you, and it's a way that a guest can send an email or give a note or a card and really express their gratitude to us. We interviewed our lodging partners to get some anecdotal evidence about how they were feeling about the service level we were providing, and then ultimately we also did a survey and interviewed our concierges to find out how they felt that the service training was of benefit to them, and if they felt that it was affecting their ability to increase their sales. The final project that I want to discuss here really quick is my instructional design project. Now, this course was designed really, in my opinion, to perfection. Every week we completed another part of this project. Every week we built on what we learned the week before and made another piece of our instructional design document. It was a wonderful course. It really helped me to understand that instructional design is not a simple process. It's not just a matter of setting some goals and making some lesson plans. It's really a matter of planning short-term and long-term, determining what your, like I said, learning goals are, who your audience is, what the rationale is for what you're doing, understanding where you are now, where you want to be, and doing some gap analysis and determining how it is that you're going to get there, interviewing subject matter experts, doing trials and surveys, and everything that it really takes to have a complete instructional design for a course. Invaluable. Really looking forward to being able to put those skills into practice as I go into the future here. Covered these big ideas here, and the last thing that I really want to do is again go over what this all means to me. Why in the heck did I do this for the last 2 years? I mentioned earlier I do have a goal of becoming a professor and teaching photography and sharing my passion for it. And rather than getting a degree in fine arts, I decided to diversify my skill set a little bit. I know that I have the knowledge and understanding of photography to share and to teach and the expertise, but what I didn't have was the ability really to teach in an online setting. I didn't have the knowledge and understanding that I would need to even teach face-to-face and really do as effective a job as possible. I'm really grateful for having been able to put into practice the principles that we learned here at Boise State. I'm supremely confident that going forward I will be able to share that knowledge with my students, whether it be now in the short term or whether it be in the long term when that ultimately happens. So this is definitely a stepping stone for me in my goal to ultimately get my PhD and put myself in a position where I'll be even more qualified to teach at the level that I would like to teach. Boise State has been a critical piece and an important factor in helping me get to that point, and thank you for taking a few minutes to look over my portfolio and see everything that I have learned while here at Boise State. Aloha.